Okay, I'm good. Hi guys, thanks for the warm welcome and hope you're not too sleepy with the lunch you just had. So this is regarding 3x. Have you heard of 3x before? Okay, even I didn't. So I just happened to be at XP 2018 Porto, and that's where I met Kent Back. He was supposed to talk about that or maybe about software development or something, and instead he talked about empathy. And so that's when we all were sitting and we were talking. We got to know there is this hot topic which is 3x, and so we got to listen to him, what he feels about 3x and where it comes from and all of that. At that point in time, I probably didn't get it very well, and that's when I came back and then I researched on it and I really fell in love with it. So when AgileNCR happened, I said, why not to talk about 3x? Okay, so when we go on with the 3x, the first thing that Kent wants to express is, he says that you feel that you have a wonderful idea and this is gonna work. And you go gaga about it, your friends say, yeah, fine, this is gonna work. But he says, don't fool yourself. Just one idea and probably it's already out there will not work. So what will work? He says, see, you have to have a handful of random ideas, at least 2. And then there should be that no one has ever done it in past. So if you are a lucky chap, I'll not rather use the words that he had used. I am really good in using them, but I'm just trying and avoiding. So in case I go with the flow, so yeah, just ignore. So he says that, if you're really lucky, and I hope I have deleted them. Yes. So he says, if you're really lucky, you'll probably hit the jackpot. But that's not what it is to be, and it's not about the luck. And he'll explain where he's coming from. So he said it's not about being lucky, because that's the dumbest thing that can happen to you. It can ruin your career, because afterwards you won't know how to take off. So what is actually good thing that can happen to you? You have to have a combination of ideas. No one should have done it, and you should know what worked. So as he progressed on his idea, he says that I also got 2 ideas. So the idea number 1, which he says I didn't acknowledge for good maybe 20 years or even more, he said that it just hit to me when I was working in Facebook and I was seeing how they are doing, and they are phenomenal. He gives all the credit to them. He says that I realized that it's really wrong to think that all the waterfallers and the theories they were proposing and the ideas they were giving were wrong. And he said, because I was young and passionate and I proposed the XP and I was so excited about it and it was working so well, I probably thought they don't know it. And I just called them not very good words. And so then, I said, I realized while I was working in Facebook that what happens, we have iterative development. I really tried to create good drawings, and it was very late. So just in case you can't read any of them, ask me. So we iterate, and it's a good iteration, and then again a good iteration, and then bang, this goes bad. And so then what happens when your iteration goes bad? What happens? What is it that you generally feel? Okay, fine. First of all, how many of you feel very strong towards iterative development, Agile and Scrum? This is supposed to be AgileNCR. Okay. And how many of you feel that waterfall is not that great? Come on, if you like Agile. Okay, so he says that, I really felt that it's not very wise to be waterfallish, and my entire time I talked about being iterative and XP and, be courageous and try that, and it's okay to, fail first, fail fast and all of that. And so that's when he said that whenever there is an iteration which failed, there is total chaos. Then what do? We restart. Because we have that capacity, that elasticity, time is like, okay, 2 minutes to 2 hours. It's not defined. So he said, it's okay. So, we just get back to our feet and we get started. But what happens when you are working with the waterfall? Fine, it's going good, it's going as per planned. So he rather calls it planned approach instead of calling it waterfall. So he said, it's going good, good, good. And then suddenly something goes wrong and you can't proceed. And so then he says, you are stuck. Then the change is not easy, and that is the theory, not theory, that's a fact. In our theories of supporting Agile, we have been proposing, right? And he said, but what if they were not totally wrong? And because he proceeded all these years and a lot of agilist in this romantic notion that waterfall is all wrong. We have not even been trying to understand what was the problem that waterfall was addressing, right? And so yes, we have heard it a lot of time that we need to understand what problem waterfall was trying to address. And he said it didn't dawn on me till the time, obviously, I worked for some good amount of time in Facebook. And then few years back, which is when, okay, fine. So then, 6 to 8 years back, he got another idea because he crossed another material. So as we move to the next slide, have you heard of Nassim Nicholas Taleb? Yeah, good. Okay, have you heard of anti-fragile? And in the Agile, we always talk about it. So it basically, it's the book which is written by Nassim Taleb. Prior to this, he calls it trilogy. Prior to this book, he wrote 2 more, Fooled by Randomness and Black Swan. Yes, absolutely. So he is a mathematician, a statistician, a risk analyst. Also, he has a philosophical side. So he writes, he thinks, and he calls himself an essayist. He would write, and his work is extremely hot and loved by people around, which is around probability, randomness of events, and what is randomness of event for us. So now, before I proceed, I want to understand, are we connecting what I'm talking about? Okay. So this is about randomness of event. And what is randomness of event? So if we talk about software world, what is the randomness of event, and what is it that we are randomly doing and trying? Where are we using that approach of working? Iterative development, right? We're just randomly trying things with a context, obviously, but we are trying a lot of things around it, and we are trying to get some results. So what are we trying to get when we are randomly trying things? What are we trying to get? Yeah, some value out, absolutely simple, plain. Actually, once we are done with this session, you would realize it is no some rocket science. Yeah, I was trying to get another word. So yeah, so once you will realize. Fine, so Nassim Taleb says, and he comes more from the investment banking and all of that, wherein he helps organization in minimizing risk on investments for their investors, bankers. So he says that we live in a world of randomness, and we tries to minimize the risk. But randomness is something we can't go away with. And as much as we try and act and behave and have all these theories, postulates, propositions about how we should be managing things, we can't go away with randomness. We should try and have benefit out of this randomness of the events, and which is what he calls convexity. Now, he would also call it anti-fragile, which is what he has written in his book if you go through the whole thing. So he says that, our profits and losses, our well-being and not so well-being, it is on your y-axis. It is function of some variable, some randomness. So for example, I am a startup guy. I will run experiments because I'm not sure what my market really wants. So I'll try and I'll do certain events, I'll do some meetups, and I'll try and gauge what can really create value for me, right? But if I don't do that, I'll not know. So what Nassim says, you are here, you're somewhere here. Now you have to move left or right. You're not sure. So you have to make a move, and then your well-being is on the right side. This is where you're getting gain. And now you don't know what is left and right for you unless you try. So he says, please try. You have to move. And that's where he says small attempts, small risk, small investment, small losses are good, because what they are giving you, which is what we try to strive, which is what we strive and try to achieve in Agile. Yeah, some predictability, and then you again invest, then you again invest. So this is the concept which he proposed, and you see, because I had just been going through the entire material again and again and again, even I can relate it in my head, because Nassim wasn't proposing anything for Agile world, or for that matter software world. He says this is an inference you can have for any world you are living into. He was more coming from mathematics, he was more coming from investment. So he proposes two approaches, which is concave and convex. And he says convex world is a good world, which is which is a world wherein you are taking smaller risk, you are attempting, trying, doing some experiments, controlled experiments with controlled investment, and that's where you are getting some results on the basis of which definitely you can scale, and which is what exactly we do in the agile world, right? But what we can't go away with is the concave world as well. So now Kant explains it for us. He says, you have a business, right? And this business has payoff. It can be positive, it can be negative. It's a positive payoff, everyone wins, we are happy, we have a profit. It's negative, we bear the loss. And obviously the reputation in our customer goes down. So now he says, let's say you make an investment, a smaller investment, and once in a while you invest this money and you lose this money, and then you again invest some money and you lose the money, and that's okay because it's a smaller money you can afford. And then once in a blue moon you got a good hit and your product is awesome and you made a huge profit. So the overall investment and the profit you made, profit is way much more than the losses you suffered, right? And which is what? It's an ecosystem. Which ecosystem it is? Smaller investment, smaller experiments, and when it's a jackpot, it's a huge hit for all of us. Which is the system? Lottery, exactly. And so which ecosystem, if we talk about development or a business system, which system is this? Yeah, it's a startup ecosystem. This is what we do. I don't have a lot of money, but I'm sure I can really create a lot of money. It's the lottery. Yeah, I'll buy a couple of tickets. I'm not sure which one would yield. I'm sure that it's not necessary I'll hit the jackpot, but for sure I'll get something. I'll go for gambling. Yeah, this is what happens. Thanks, Sanjay. So, and then he says there is another system. There's too much of risk. It's a heavy investment area. And you can't afford to take that risk, because if you look at this graph, this is your concave. Okay, how do you define concave or convex? We know this is concave or convex? And this is concave for us, right? Okay, how do we define it here? Why is this convex and this is concave? Yeah, because we are here and we are looking from here. So the context matters. Okay. Yeah. So now let us understand what is convex investment and what is concave investment. I just have put some pointers here. I understand that slides should be light, but I was just so tempted. I wanted to give, more points to everyone, because I know once you are out of here, you for sure would want to look at the material, because there is too much to absorb at this point in time. So he talks about convex investment. He says, what is convex investment? He says it's a low cost investment. It's not too much money. Everyone can do it. 3-4 friends, they got together. It wasn't difficult. They just bought computers and they said, fine, let's try. Let's get started. Let's build a website. Then most of the time you lose everything. Yeah, you attempted, you put, nobody bought it. Fine, let's leave this app, make another. Then you again try. Similar thing happened with WhatsApp, right? They said, okay, fine, let's invest some more money. Let's try. By the way, has anyone got any idea what's happening with Hike Messenger? No? Okay, no worries. So coming back to WhatsApp. So that's what they did. So what did they do? They created an app and they kept on trying until unless it was a huge hit. So what do you need for that? You need someone to pumping in some money, or you have to be yourself a venture capitalist, right? So that is what he said. This is a convex investment world. Now what happens? We move to the concave investment world. Now here our investment is huge, as we discussed earlier. Our investment is so huge that we can't afford, and a tiny change. So this is what happens where decision making requires a lot of thinking, and you just can't simply make all the decisions as we claim in the Agile. No, it's not just waterfall, it's the enterprise. If you compare it to startup, it is the big business, right? You just cannot go big bang. You really have to think through it. So as much as we say in Agile, you have to have a lot of courage and go bold, do things, fail first, fail fast. You can't afford to fail here. So Naseeb talks about, he was working with Society General and he was talking about the investment risk analysis he was doing for certain investment, which was around $70 billion investment. Yeah. So there was this Italian folk, that's a complicated name, very difficult for an Indian to pronounce, so I'll not be doing that. I still have notes, probably I can read them. So he says that this guy invests around $70 billion and then he shouldn't have made that investment. SocGen realizes that they do not own those bonds or something, so they immediately have to sell it back. And when they sell it back, the investment hit takes 7%. And so Naseem loses around 9 billion or 6 billion USD. And which is a huge money he's losing, right? So that's what. So when we are at a stage where $1 goes in and $3 come back, we just can't take random decision. We will still live with that stale world where we are, right? So now what happens? This is where Ken says that he needs to move on. Move on. Guys. So now, he says, I'm going to combine these two ideas, okay? Now, when I combine these two ideas, and I think a lot about it on the businesses, especially where he comes from a software industry. So he says, sitting at Facebook, when I'm thinking and I'm looking at what Facebook is doing, I realize this. He says an idea that, let's have a photo uploading app. Is it a great idea? Tell me. No, you already had PicSquare. What were the apps which were there before Facebook for uploading photos? Does anyone remember? Orkut was so sad. Yeah, Google has Picasa. So there were a couple of other, which died. So what actually helped Facebook? Okay, the next step, the other idea which Facebook, so first idea is have photos. Okay, then the other idea which Facebook combined with having photos, what? Yeah, network. And then the other thing that hit to them was tagging, right? So now how it goes viral. You tag me, I tag my friends check it, and this is how it just became a forest fire, right? So that's what Ken says, that when you are starting, you are in a phase where this is not pour, it's explore. So this is first X, where you are exploring opportunities. Pretty random. You're not sure what will work, but you are attempting, you're trying to explore what can be beneficial for your business. Does it require a lot of money to invest in that? No, it doesn't require, right? You have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of money, and it's okay. So this is a convex world for you. So you get started here. Okay, this has to be straight. Yeah, so you start here and then you realize you are doing pretty good. Now you are making money. So now this is this hockey stick, you see, it's steep. You're gradually growing. What happens? So now we all know startups, right? I don't want it to be a mystery anymore. Let us talk. This is a very self-explanatory graph. Let us talk. What happens? So we are in a world where we are exploring things, right? And then suddenly we start making profit. One idea, combination of idea, there is no one idea. The combination of idea, it really worked for us. Now what happens? So we are here, we're making profit. What do we strive for at this phase? What is the feeling? We all have worked with the mid-level organizations, startup, and what are the complaints do we have generally? What is a startup ecosystem? Now I'm not saying every startup does that, but I'm just randomly quoting, right? So I am coming from a startup ecosystem and I am very much undisciplined. I'm working just to make ants meet, and this idea hits and I'm really doing good now, I have money. But I don't know whom to hire now. I probably would know technically good people should be hired. I can choose one technology folks, but I can't, this is what. So we are out of service. Our user hit is so high that our server is crashing. We don't have, security breach is there. Oh my God, we did not consider those laws from the government which are just out because of Aadhaar card or whatever, right? We have security concerns. Why? Because that, what is this latest privacy policy that has just come. Yeah. So that's what. I am not ready for all of that, and that is my problem. So this is where I am. I have to expand, but I have a lot of money at this point. So what I can do, I can really hire people. I can still take good amount of risk. Why? Because you look at this, my payoffs are going high. So it is mostly, it has to be clean. So when you start using a new software, you should not come immediately to the conference. You should rather use photos from internet. Okay. So yeah. So what is happening? I still have a lot of money. So what I'm doing now, what I'm investing on good ideas. I'm still capable of investing on more such experimentations, and I'm really rising high. So now what happens? Now I come to a phase where I am here. Please, now what will happen? Please tell. Yes, scaling was an issue. You guys were right. Huh? So yeah, I wanted to, but hear more. So now what happens? So now we are at a huge, and this is, this comes pretty flat here. It is not like a hump, again, sorry, new software, new laptop. So what happens? You cannot take decisions just like that, which is what? Now we are into a concave world, right? This is our convex world. So we are here, we are looking from here. So we are at a convex world. We are really free to do whatever. But now our actions matter. So that's what. So now we can't do things randomly. The whole profit or the benefit which was coming from randomness, fooled by randomness, black swan, and then anti-fragile, whatever you call it. So that has gone. So now you are at a phase where you need what? Now someone said the word. We need the stability, and yeah, we need to sustain. We need to. So this is where we call extract. So we focus on the maximum profit giving things. We don't randomly. So you will go with a great idea to your manager and be like, yeah, this is good, yeah, you're not interested. Why? Because obviously we are talking profit here. It's not to demotivate you or something, but we are talking profit here. How are we on time box? How much time do I have? Oh, wonderful. Perfect. So far, this is 3x. Now, I have a lot of material though for you all, and I don't want to overload you with the information. Should we get started with some questions, and then I'll move on to another set of detailing. Yeah, please.
Like you said that during the start phase, the company needs to be sustainable, right? So where do you define Paytm at this point of time? Because what I have seen, people generally expand their domain in the high way of it.
Right. Paytm still looks like probably at the expand phase. They have a lot to expand. I'll take an example of NCR Corporation, answering to the same question, because I worked with NCR Corporation for 10 years, and I love that life because it's a cash-rich company, and they had a lot of capacity to take risk. They had enough money, and they are obviously here for probably 100 years. So yeah. So but what did they do suddenly? They shut down a lot of their operations. They used to make even ATMs, they used to make a lot of hardware, they used to make and they had Teradata, right? And so they decided to go off with Teradata. And we couldn't understand. We were like, shit, yeah, this is the maximum profit making, thing. So why are they going away? It was a brand we used to brag about. So now what happens? They decided to go away with all of that. Obviously, because it was not meeting their strategy. What strategy? Because they were just working randomly, and at this stage you can't work randomly, right? So what they started okay, so it's not that they just confined. They obviously shifted their and they realigned their strategy. They started focusing on one thing, self-service. So even before self-service, they started talking about going away from the random work they were doing. They still didn't talk about self-service, but then they realized ATM is a hardware and the world is going digital, paperless, all plastic. So that is where they got into self-service. They were already doing self-service. It's not that they started doing, but they said, no, this is our focus area. So coming back to the Paytm, they're still at expand. And so they're still experimenting. So when you are at expand stage, you have to stabilize some of your things, because probably you don't have all the processes in place. So when you have to procure a hardware, when you have to hire people, when you need to standardize the thing, because your client has a certain expectation. You can't, aaj main 2 baje, I'll start working today at 2. I didn't work. I have been working for 3 days. Today I'll sleep. So those kind of things. I have worked with startups and that happens, and I've seen those young kids, they would live in the organization. They will sleep there, they'll work non-stop. There was no office time, and even I had to work with them. So I, being disciplined, I'm not disciplined, but yes, with them I was disciplined. So I'll go there at 10 in the morning and I'll get out at 10 in the night, and I was like, what the hell? So then slowly we all disciplined and they started coming at 2 instead of 5. So this is how, So yeah, but does that answer? Any question? Any random question? Random questions will do. I don't know. That's why I thought probably you'll all have some general knowledge. So because we were talking WhatsApp.
So how do you see the example of Nokia? Where did Nokia lies? They also died. Right?
They also died, yeah. I was talking to someone in Nokia, again this friend from XP who was there talking about technology. And obviously I cannot comment on the company's strategy very much. But then at this point, as we took NCR's example, probably NCR was still doing good. Internally, they must have felt the heat. Internally, they must have realized, shit, we are doing shit, we don't know where are we going. We are just eating our cash on which we are sitting for all these 100 years, at least past 50 years, right? So with here also, if you do not align yourself, as we say that in the Agile, the market need, probably you will, die. Nokia, I always take that as an example in my workshops, the communicators, and the world was when it was going touch screen, they were hell-bent that we'll go with those our monster phone models. That's what they thought it will work. It didn't work. So that's my example for Nokia. That's how I feel for them.
Is that the phase that a company should avoid moving to? If a company actually does not take any risk, they are bound to fail at some point of time. For example, Kodak.
Perfect. Next slide. Thank you. Again to the Nokia question and to your question combined. Yeah. So we already understand explore, expand and extract. 2 more slides because I am used to give additional information. To 1 more. Yeah. Then 1 more. Yeah. So now what happens, you have to innovate at every stage. So it is not that once you have reached that stable stage here, you will not, experiment, you constantly have to, it's a business. And so that's where he talks about fractal scope of 3x, fractal nature of 3x. What is fractal? I mean, if we in general talk about the examples from nature that we have seen. Anyone? Absolutely, thank you. So yeah, what happens with snowflakes? They keep on making similar pattern and they spread. It's again like forest fire, right? So it just spread. So similarly, that is what the 3x also has the nature. At every level, when you zoom out, you will see that you still have to innovate. You still have 3 phases intact. So at every phase, then you have 3 phases. Yeah. So the point that Kant was trying to make, now let's go back 1 more slide. And does it kind of relate to the Nokia thing or, yeah? So now when I was asking context, we need a context. So every phase has unique proposition, value proposition, ecosystem, and it has its own rule of games, right? So every phase has its rule. What you can do in your first acts, it's not necessary that is applicable for your third acts. So, and so that's when he feels, not very apologetically, but yeah, he feels that Waterfall was trying to address certain problem that when, and see, this startup ecosystem, Agile comes from where? All these startup guys, right? All those guys who in their capacity was trying to create something new, innovate, and they felt this is better, right? And where does Waterfall flourished? In the enterprises. Why? Because they needed stability. So you have to have what? The fractal nature of 3x, which is the next slide. You have to have a combination of all the phases, at all the phases, and you have to see what is suitable for you at which point. So for example, when you are at the top, you still innovate. How do you innovate? You have your hackathons, you have your incubators, you have your codathons, you have your bugathons, right? So this is how you do that. Similarly, you keep on reviewing your strategy. You do have funds to experiment, but you do not do that big bang experiment on the stable system, and you stick to few of your profit making. So we all have our favorites when we work on something, even if, like we call in Agile the gold plating, right? We all do that gold plating. If you ask me to design a conference, probably I'll just put so many things. I last year did the same thing and it was so tiring, right? And then I will still go on with what? My women in Agile stuff. You will say, oh, you don't have bandwidth. I'm like, we'll manage. So what happens? You all have favorite, we all have favorite. But when you're talking about payoffs, when you're talking business, you have to keep that aside. You have to, so I'm talking about the third X. I'm saying you still have to stick to the X, which is, you will still have to stick to the products which are making profit, because payoff is huge. It's huge money we are talking. And yet, the fractal nature wherein you have it is entwined, is there at all the level.
Just to add to the Nokia example.
Yeah, please.
Nokia sold its phone business with Microsoft.
Yeah.
And then they concentrated on the maps when they were with Maptech, and now everything. Anything which you have in your car, the navigation system, that's all Nokia, all the revenue goes to Nokia.
Oh wow.
Even the voice you hear or the direction, that's all Nokia basically.
Good.
So they're strategized basically.
Yeah, yeah. And probably in next 10 years we see new
Now
Nokia.
they're competing with Google for the
Mapping.
driverless cars and 3D maps and all that.
Yeah, and AI is anyway going to change everything. So yeah, so that's 3x. I mean, and I have, if you go to the next slide, you'll see I have put all the content. This is an application of 3x into a development world. If you'll see, when we start, we are exploring. And then whenever, so how do we do it, which is what we don't know. Then we, oh, this is how we have to do it. Fine, then we say, okay, fine, we found out. And then what exactly do we have to do? So not everything, right? So, and which is what we also call out in Agile, that we have to have, in this whole serendipity, we really have to have some projections. We should be able to plan. So we should be able to commit, some part. And so it's not a constant discovery, but it is in phases, which is what we always denied when we were talking in Agile. With 3x, Kent is able to combine the two, and he's trying to propose that. Did it help? Oh, we are silent. I don't know, how did you feel about it? So we have exactly 5 minutes. So do we have any questions?
I will share one thing.
Yeah.
So this is one of the banking organizations.
Yeah.
They're working on innovation. Innovation is one of the streams because digital transformation.
Absolutely.
So what they did, they have run one program known as Catalyst.
Yeah.
So what they did as part of that, they invited all the startups
Right.
and they said, you innovate for us. This whoever the
Wow.
freelancers also came.
Right.
And they said, we'll provide you infrastructure to work for us.
Wow, wonderful. I worked with another bank and even they do the same thing. So they asked me, I run certain coaching programs. They said, we do the same thing. You design the module, the coaching program for us, whatever you have, and if you want, you can run your university from here. I said, wow, wonderful, but that has to, that makes me employee. So it doesn't work for me. Nice. Yeah, exactly. So I think we are all happy. No more questions, right? Thank you.
And I would just like to invite Niladri to honor her with a memento.